Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the day 13 episode of Training Camp of your Chicago Bears 2022 Training Camp. My name is Nick Rohde. Happy hump day. I told you guys, we're halfway there. We're doing a great job. Keep going. You're that much closer to Friday. 21 guys out of practice today, though, which is okay because it seemed like a move to focus more on the guys that need to fight for a roster spot instead of the guys who are 99% positive that they will make this roster. Still no contract for Roquan Smith, but there is an update on the situation that's starting to get a little bit of heat under it at Halas Hall. And the first unofficial depth chart was released today or yesterday. So we kind of have an idea of who's going to be doing what for the Chicago Bears. Exciting time. I'll be going over both sides of the ball today, especially those who didn't participate and those who had a pretty good day. But before we hit on more, we'd like to thank today's sponsor, Stupid Car Tray. Tired of your pizza topping sliding, office coffee distracting you while driving, grease and other stains getting on your seat, or you're just enjoying a game on the couch and don't want to lean over? Look no further than the Stupid Car Tray. Proudly USA made, Stupid Car Tray makes your passenger seat or couch a level surface for all transportation and couch potato needs. Visit www.stupidcartray.com, link in the description. Make sure to head over to the link in the description for Stupid Car Tray and use code JAYSHY to get 16% off your first order. You can't beat the Stupid Car Tray. Deep dish season's almost here on Sundays. Wings Sundays are almost back. Anything that you like to watch during your football game, it's almost back. Get your Stupid Car Tray before it all begins. But I'm going to update you guys a little bit on the Roquan Smith situation before we go into the depth chart, and then a little bit more about what happened on the defensive side of the ball today. So the Roquan Smith situation, told you guys I had an update. Ryan Poles has brought in former Bears defensive end Trace Armstrong to practice today, who he is the agent that represents Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Many speculate that after practice today, so this filming is right after practice, that they're going to speak to Roquan Smith privately about his contract situation. Yesterday, for those who may not know, Roquan Smith requested a trade from the Chicago Bears due to unable to meet his expectations as a player and what he thinks he deserves in the linebacker market as his next contract. Roquan Smith does not have an agent, and he works for himself in regards to the contract negotiation and is asking the Bears for $22 million a season, $3 million more than the next highest paid linebacker. A little bit craziness to me, but overall, I mean, I hope the situation gets figured out because Roquan Smith clearly is a huge part of this rebuild. You don't get many young linebackers like him anymore in the NFL. Very, very important part to have to this roster, so stay tuned for that. Another thing before we hit on the depth chart is that there were officials again today at practice during the time where a lot of the starters were out. There were injuries, though, unfortunately. There were injured players that were out. There was no major injuries at practice today, which is great. But there were players that unfortunately were injured over the last couple of days that were out, a part of that group of 21. But there was officials, and they helped a lot with calling out penalties on the offensive line specifically. We'll get more into that, but there were officials at practice today. Let's get into now the unofficial first depth chart for the Chicago Bears. For starters, at wide receiver, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball. Then we'll go to the defensive side of the ball. Wide receiver 1, Darnell Mooney. Left tackle, Braxton Jones. Left guard, Cody Whitehair. Center, Lucas Patrick. Right guard, Michael Schofield. Right tackle, Riley Reif. Tight end, Cole Kmet. Wide receiver 2, Anquanius St. Brown. Quarterback 1, Justin Fields. Running back 1, David Montgomery. Fullback, Kerry Blasingame. And then wide receiver 2 would be Velus Jones Jr. Left tackle, starting, and this is the twos, would be left tackle Larry Borum. Left guard, Latavius Simmons. Center, Sam Mustipher. Right guard, J. Cheer Carter. Right tackle, Tevin Jenkins. Tight end, Ryan Griffin. Wide receiver, Brian Pringle. Quarterback, Trevor Simeon. Running back, Khalil Herbert. And then our second string fullback, Jake Torgs. So I'm not going to go too much more into the rest of the depth chart. A lot of rookies and a lot of veterans are playing on the offensive side of the ball. N'Keal Harry, though, is wide receiver 3. So he's a little low on the depth chart. Kind of a concern for me, but that's okay. Let's go to the starters really quick. Starting at defensive end, Robert Quinn. Defensive tackle 1, Justin Jones. Defensive 1, tackle. Okay, let me redo that real quick because this is very small font, guys. Defensive end, Robert Quinn. Defensive tackle, Justin Jones. Defensive tackle, Angelo Blackson. Defensive end, Travis Gibson. Linebacker, Nicholas Moreau. Linebacker, Roquan Smith. on the PUP. So he is listed still as the starting linebacker. Linebacker Joe Thomas, cornerback Jalen Johnson, cornerback Kyler Gordon, safety Eddie Jackson, safety Jaquan Brisker. A few callouts from the second team is that Mario Edwards Jr. is playing defensive end, not defensive tackle like he usually has. Al-Qaeda Muhammad is on the second team, and then Matthew Adams, it would be backing up Roquan Smith. So if Roquan Smith does not play week 1, it's going to be Matthew Adams starting there. And then DeAndre Houston Carter is our second string safety, which I thought was very fitting. I thought he played well at that position, but that is the unofficial depth chart to start, which isn't bad. It was pretty expected, all those names, but I'm very excited to see that there is an idea moving forward. A lot of people got to fight for roster spots. There's going to be a lot of practice squad guys, but that's the name of the game, folks. Football is a business. And I think that, again, this Bears team is much better than last year. It's crazy. I mean, I know we don't have Khalil Mack. I know we don't have Akeem Hicks. Both of them were injured all the time. Sorry, just being honest. Like they were fantastic for the Chicago Bears. I'm not disregarding that. I'm just saying that I want guys out there that are going to play. You know, my neighbor Jay, he comments on videos every now and then. He says it best. If guys are going to get paid, they got to be on the field. That's just what it is. And unfortunately with Khalil Mack, that was a season-ending injury. But there was just so much stuff last year with the Chicago Bears and Matt Nagy. I don't think they wanted to play. So overall, happy to see that there is a depth chart in place. So unofficial depth chart in place so far entering the Kansas City Chiefs game, which if no one knows this, Matt Nagy is the quarterback coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm only bringing up his name because that's our opponent this upcoming week. Sorry, Ron, but unbelievable. Like he's saying like, I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to see family and friends. No one wants to see you. Sorry. No one from the Bears fan base wants to see you, Matt Nagy. Just putting that out there. Let's go to the offense really quick. From the injury report and non-participants, wide receiver N'Keal Harry is out with an ankle injury. Wide receiver Byron Pringle is out with a quad injury. Wide receiver Velus Jones Jr. is out with an undisclosed injury. Guard Lucas Patrick is out with a broken thumb. Offensive tackle Julian Davenport is out with a leg injury. Wide receiver Dante Pettis is out with an undisclosed injury. Wide receiver David Moore is out with a leg injury. Running back David Montgomery was a non-participant today. Tight end Cole Kmet was a non-participant today. Tight end Ryan Griffin was a non-participant today. And tight end James O'Shaughnessy was a non-participant today. Those non-participants, those guys are experienced veterans. Probably just Matt Eberflus doesn't want to risk any more injuries to his starting guys. So that's probably why they were non-participants, and you got to give them a day off every now and then. Let's go to the offensive line today. Same starters as it's been and as it was on the depth chart. So left tackle Braxton Jones, left guard Cody Whitehair, center Sam Mustipher, who's filling in for Lucas Patrick at the moment, right guard Michael Schofield, and then right tackle Riley Reeve. A few things on Tevin Jenkins is that he worked with the Tuesday at both offensive tackle and offensive guard. Good to see he and the coaches are open to finding a way where he can fit best on this team and in the NFL. You never know. This is an unofficial depth chart. Nothing set in stone. He could have a fantastic next couple of weeks and be a starter for this team. I know a lot of Bears fans want him to be out there, and I agree. He's tough as nails. He's a great offensive lineman in college. We still need to see that, and we saw some of it toward the end of last season. But Tevin Jenkins definitely needs to continue to work, and they clearly see something in Braxton Jones, which I'll get into in a second. The Bears offensive line had a ton of penalties today. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, there were officials at practice today, but a ton of false starts. Get them out now, guys. Get it all out now. Get the camp counts down. You got to shake this rust off early because the Bears cannot have another season of constant drive killers with false starts and holding penalties. So hopefully the Chicago Bears work on that. They have some drills probably in place tomorrow for them to go over those situations. But overall, good to have the officials out there today to call out these penalties. Big rotation at right guard and right tackle today when Carter and Borum ran with the ones. They were constantly switching back and forth between the positions at the coach's discretion. They did not start with the ones today, but they ran with the ones today, kind of seeing who works best. And overall, they did okay from what I understand, but it sounds like they're going to be getting a ton of playing time this upcoming Saturday against the Chiefs at Soldier Field, which is good. I think that Larry Borum still has a lot to work on. I love Larry Borum. I think he did great for the situation he was in last year, but the Bears need to figure out this offensive line situation. And then finally, what I was getting to earlier was Braxton Jones had himself a day today. He easily could be steal of the draft this upcoming season. He is looking like a gem. He is single-handedly managing Robert Quinn like a Pro Bowler would. Robert Quinn is struggling to get pressure against Braxton Jones. Braxton Jones' feet are great. And that's why I put him in the thumbnail, because Braxton Jones had himself a day today. So claps to him. What a fantastic job. Rookie 5th-round pick coming in. Not a lot of expectations for him. And he's right now the starting left tackle for the Chicago Bears. Love it. Keep it up, young man. You're doing great. I can't wait to see what he has to do for the Chicago Bears moving forward. And I wish him the best. But it's still early, and he might not be the left tackle still. So we'll get more into that as the preseason goes on. Wide receivers and tight ends, the only tight ends out there today were Chase Allen, Jake Tongs, and Ryson John. For sure, a day to take advantage of all your veterans being sat out, especially your starter and Cole Kmet sitting out today. I think that's what these guys needed. They needed to figure out this tight end room, and they're definitely be focusing on them the rest of the week. And after Saturday, I feel like a name on that list might unfortunately be gone, but I'm not saying anything yet because I'm not Matt Eberflus making the decisions. From a wide receiver standpoint, Isaiah Crowder had himself a day, and I think that he has a very legitimate shot at beating out shockingly people for a roster spot on the 53-man roster come week 1 against the Niners. Him and Fields are clicking very well while the major group of wide receivers is out. He's really proving that he's got that next man up mentality. He had some nice one-handed snags today from Justin Fields. He also was able to rip it up field. He's got some good speed too. So very excited for what he brought today to training camp, and he had himself a day today. So if anyone's getting the practice ball, it should be him. Justin Fields, just a quick couple comments on him. A lot of rollouts today, which is good because he's going to need to, especially if the offensive line is struggling still early against the unit, whether that be with penalties, whether that be with trick plays, and rollout fakes is something that you saw yesterday, and you've seen a guy up north do that quite a bit. And Luke Getsy, ironically, comes from up north and worked with the boogeyman up north. That is the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, is he who shall not be named. But the fake where, you put it out, you run back like you're going to give it to your running back, and then you pull it back in and then pass it. Worked on that a lot today along with the rollout. So looks good so far for Justin Fields. Unfortunately, he did struggle in the red zone today. That wasn't his fault because there was a lot of penalties. There was a lot of pressure on him from the right side of the offensive line and when he ran with the twos. So lots of checkdowns, unfortunately, but they led to field goals. Santos looks fantastic in camp so far, by the way. I want to give him a quick shout out there. But touchdowns will win games for the Chicago Bears. And unfortunately, I love Cairo Santos. I love seeing him out there. I love just everything about him. We need touchdowns, and the Bears need to figure that out while they're in training camp still. Let's go over to the defensive side of the ball real fast. The 9-participant and injury list update. Not much on the defensive side of the ball. It was very offensive focused today, according to reports. Is that quarterback Kyler Gordon was out with an undisclosed injury. Cornerback Thomas Graham Jr. was out with a hamstring injury. Cornerback Duke Shelley is out with an undisclosed injury as well. Angelo Blackson is out with an undisclosed injury. Safety Dane Cruikshank is still coming back from his injury that he suffered during the offseason. He was a non-participant today. Linebacker Noah Dawkins was out with an undisclosed injury today. Kendall Vildor and Mario Edwards Jr. were non-participants. So the defense is definitely the healthier side of the ball, but there still is a lot of work to be done there, and hopefully these guys can get better as soon as possible. And then just want to give Eddie Jackson a quick shout out today. He did absolutely fantastic breaking up passes in coverage, making tackles. Eddie Jackson making tackles. He really is flourishing well in this Matt Eberflus, Alan Williams scheme, the Tampa defense. And I think that if he keeps this up, he's going to have himself a very nice season. We're going to see the Eddie Jackson we all were familiar with before he started, unfortunately, declining. So big episode today. A lot of information for you guys. Again, we're going to be breaking down. We have breaking news on our Instagram and Twitter at all times. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit us with a follow. But with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rhodey, and we'll see you guys next time.